John Adams was a founding father and an important figure in American history. He was a patriot during the Revolution and led the newly made United States of America as the first vice president and the second U.S. president. John Adams was born in Braintree, Massachusetts, or present-day Quincy, Massachusetts, on October 30th, 1735. As a Harvard-educated lawyer, he became part of the Patriot cause just before the American Revolution. He was one of 5 representatives from the Massachusetts colony during the First Continental Congress and is known for being one of the original signers of the Declaration of Independence. He later served as a diplomat to gain French war support during the Revolutionary War. Following the war, he was sent again to serve as a diplomat for the Treaty of Paris in 1783.
Former Vice President John Adams ran for the presidential election of 1796 after George Washington refused to run for another term. He was the selected candidate for the Federalist Party and ran against Thomas Jefferson of the Democratic-Republican Party, who had been Washington's Secretary of State. Adams won the election 71-68 in the Electoral College to become the second president of the U.S. Adams had been the favorite in the North, gaining all the electoral votes in New England and the Mid-Atlantic, with the exception of Pennsylvania, while Jefferson had been the favorite across the South. He ran for re-election in 1800 against Jefferson once again, but lost most likely due to his troubled presidency with the XYZ affair and the quasi-war with France. What really killed his chances, though, was his decision to break from his party's policy and attempt to make peace again between the U.S. and France. When he ran for re-election, the Federalist Party did not back Adams, and he lost the election to the Republican Jefferson 73-65 in the Electoral College. This disunity led to the fall of the Federalist Party in the following years.
Congress and Adams took strong steps in opposition to foreign threats. Signed into law on July 14, 1798, the Alien and Sedition Acts were passed. These series of laws gave new powers to deport any foreigners, as well as making it harder to vote. Before the law, citizens had to reside in America for 5 years in order to vote. Preceding the law, an immigrant needed to stay for 14 years in order to gain eligibility. The most controversial part of the new laws was the Sedition Act. In essence, this act prohibited public opposition to the government. Fines and warrants for arrests made citizens furious. Timothy Lyon, a Republican congressman, became the first man tried under this new law. While publishing letters for his re-election, he was indicted for writing that showed intent and design to defame the national government and President Adams. He was sentenced to 4 months in prison and a $1,000 fine. Declared unconstitutional by many and violating individual protections of the First Amendment, the law stayed. This was due to the judicial review being underdeveloped, as well as many of the justices being strong Federalists who supported Adams. Congress and Adams' domestic policies stirred tensions among Pennsylvanian farmers. Fry's Rebellion was in opposition to a direct tax passed by the national government. In anticipation of war with France, Congress voted to put a tax on all real properties, including land, buildings, and slaves. This tax spread national resentment among Federalist Congress and Adams. Eventually, several hundred farmers took arms under the leadership of John Fries. In response, Adams called for federal troops and militias to suppress the rebellion. Along with many others, John Fries was arrested and convicted of treason. He was sentenced to hang but was pardoned by President Adams.
Prior to Adams' presidency, a Federalist, John Jay, wrote a commercial treaty that restricted U.S. trade to the British West Indies. It also included the right for the British to stop and search American ships and confiscate any French goods. The French were angered by this. Once John Adams entered his presidency, he tried to resolve the issue. Adams sent a delegation to France to negotiate a treaty, but they refused to meet with him. The minister at the time, Charles Marcy de Talleyrand Perigord, demanded a personal bribe, a $10 million loan, and an apology in order for him to listen to the delegation. Adams refused this deal. This soon became known as the XYZ affair. After Adams refused, he went to Congress to get funds for a navy and professional army. He then canceled the Treaty of Alliance and Commerce with France, which caused the French to fight back and start the quasi-war.
Quasi-war, as stated before, was an undeclared war that was created from a dispute from the XYZ affairs. After the Americans refused to pay a $12 million bribe and fulfill a $10 million financial loan that the French requested, the French and American navies were fighting an undeclared war in the Caribbean. It resulted in many naval skirmishes and looting of goods. Cargo traveling to Britain was often intercepted, as well as making trade too dangerous. To counter this, a fleet of 25 ships was sent to patrol the coasts of the Caribbean. The Federalist Party enjoyed its popularity from the American people, as it had previously warned against France and its motives. Despite his party's ideals about France and the war's disease sweeping the nation, Adams worked to peacefully resolve the tensions with France, much to the Federalists' dismay. The undeclared war ended after the Convention of 1800, known as the Treaty of Mortefontaine. After Napoleon's coup with the French, politics and views changed. France now wanted to negotiate peaceful terms once again. Adams received word of this, and on September 30th, 1800, the Treaty of Mortefontaine was signed, ending hostility in the undeclared war. In conclusion, President John Adams had a rather troubled presidency, filled with high tensions and important mistakes. Although Adams's party was somewhat of an impressive force, Adams was able to resolve the U.S.'s conflicts dealing with the quasi-war and other tensions with foreign nations. All in all, John Adams was an important figure in the fight for independence and in shaping this great nation.